After I finished the last episode, I realized I wasn't quite done because I wanted to talk about how specifically you can make an animation like Ghost with whatever art tools you have available to you. I'm only going to cover the bouncy part of the animation. We're not going to get into smear frames or turns or character design. You can animate your own character doing a bounce motion like this pretty easily. Now, the difference for you is whether or not you're going to animate it like a pro or like a person who chewed on their pencil in school instead of actually drawing in the margins of your papers like you're supposed to. Personally, I filled up all the white space on my essays with hundreds of tiny ants. I'm gonna do this in Flash, but you can use paper or Toon Boom or GIMP or whatever. Ghost is made with puppets, so I made a character that has an absolute minimum number of pieces we need, which is 2, a body and a head. Animating a bounce is all about timing. Your first instinct may be to say, okay, I want position 1 here, and position 2 here, and then back to the start position. I'll just draw the frames in between equally. Well, here's what that looks like. Nope. Break down Ghost, and you'll learn right away what you need to do is immediately jump from position 1 to 2. And then to get back to position 1, what you do is you draw the in-between frames unevenly, by which I mean you have the halfway position, and then you have a position halfway between halfway and 1, and so on. You want to ease into the resting spot. With a puppet, you can do this easily. Like in Flash, you take your head, you add a keyframe, you add another keyframe immediately after that and move the head to the lowest position you want. And then you go over a few frames and add the original position and tween it. Bang. You can use classic tweens like this, or you can use motion tweens. And to make the manual easing on either kind of tween, all you do is add a frame here, and then pull it back one. For even more easing, you just repeat that process, adding a frame and pulling it back. With motion tweens, of course, there are motion curves that you can use on a graph editor, but I stick to the simple method because every time I try to use Flash's graph editor, it makes my puppet pieces fly around in weird arcs unless I split the tween. There you go, there's your very average bounce. What you should do at this point is add some squash and stretch to your bounce. Like a bouncy ball, when the head hits the lowest point, squish it up a bit. Then let it ease back into its regular shape. For a more extreme result, you can manipulate your frames to have the immediate bottom shape be very squished, but the frame after it much less so. Occasionally in Ghost, you will also see a bounce that has anticipation in it. There will be a lot of squishing before popping up to the next position. That's anticipation. A person doesn't suddenly pick up a boulder. They brace their muscles and then lift the boulder up. If your character's making an extreme action, you have to prepare them for it. If your character is headbanging, they are going to pull their head back a little bit before suddenly having their head all the way down. Use anticipation like that if your bounce is going to have a big gap between position 1 and 2. That way it just doesn't suddenly happen. It lets your audience know, oh, something's about to happen, they're moving a little bit. The last part of the bounce is to consider how advanced you want it to be. In Ghost, the characters have more than just 2 pieces. Their hair, for instance, is lighter than their head itself, so it's animated at a different speed than the head. Things like hair and animal ears should be their own pieces. Here you can see Arthur's eyebrows, bangs, and hair bounce differently than the head. Even when the head is stopped, they keep moving until they've caught up. Lighter objects lag behind heavier ones. Understanding how and when to do this kind of follow-through animation can be challenging if you're new to the idea. It's all about physics and weight. Study some slow-motion clips of real life, or animation of how hair and clothes move. Animal ears, feathers, fat rolls, anything that's loose or lighter has different timing and moves around more than the heavier main body. Like Mystery's ears are a bit floppier than his skull. Tiny adjustments like that make the bounce feel more alive than a single stiff puppet piece. Of course, the methods I talk about for making bounces apply to other things, like beating hearts. There's a sudden jump from the small size to the biggest size, and then slowly coming back to the small size. Once you've got your as complex as you feel like it bounce animated, in Flash you can turn your tiny animation into a symbol and then extend your symbol as far as you need it to go, throughout the entire music piece if you want. If the timing of your animation doesn't fit the beat, it will start to be off further down the timeline. I usually put 2 beat cycles per symbol, one that is 1 frame longer than the other, because otherwise the animation timing gets off. Of course, if you're mathematically inclined, you could do calculations based on the beats per minute of the song and the number of frames per beat to ensure perfection. I'm happier playing it by ear. And those are the principles of making a bounce. Now go make some bouncy stuff. You may know how obsessed I get about backgrounds. My friend and teammate Cloudman drew me frothing at the mouth about it. Skyspotential signed my butt. If I get more butt signatures after this, I know who to blame. I laughed a lot when Irish John sent me this one. Anyone who's had lunch with me knows I get like this about food. Do I have any more pictures of me eating? I do! Yeah, this is me here. Do not step between me and my lunch. Wrap it all up with a nap. Yep, eat, sleep, draw. That's the 3 things.